Hi guys, and welcome to Version of Events News Roundup episode 3.
Yeah, hi guys.
It's good to be back. How are you, Jess?
Yeah, I'm good, babe. How are you?
I'm alright, thank you. Yeah, we've got 4 cases to dive into today, one of which is a suggestion from Carly, so thank you, Carly. So we've got Emma Baum, Sara Millerey, Matthew Jones, and Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah.
And thank you, Jess, for doing the work on this app while I've been doing bits on Ellen Greenberg. Still teasing Ellen, I'm afraid, but we are getting there.
Yeah, still teasing Ellen.
Right, so let's get going on Emma Baum.
Yeah.
Emma Baum is 25 and was last seen on October the 10th at her boyfriend's home near the intersection of 25th Avenue and Connecticut Street in Gary, Indiana. Police received a missing persons report on October 28th, 18 days after Baum was last seen. She was heavily pregnant at the time. Her sister said she was 1 centimetre dilated on October the 4th. The young mum, she has 3 other children, is approximately 5 feet 3 inches tall and weighs about 136 pounds. She frequently wears wigs and different hair pieces, but is naturally a brunette. She has several tattoos and scars on her arms, and she's also sometimes known as Emma Waddell or Baum Waddell. So, quite a serious case, especially being so heavily pregnant and even starting to dilate.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the real concern because obviously Emma's listed as missing at the moment. It's possible that she's deceased, but whether she is or isn't, her baby could be alive and no one knows the location of Emma or her baby. So you said she was last seen at her boyfriend's home.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Emma's boyfriend is Antoine Cordell Dante Butler, and he was picked up on October 29th on a failure to appear charge in connection with a drug offence. But he's not charged in connection with Emma's disappearance.
I mean, the fact that he's not charged with Emma's disappearance, I'm sure that he's still being looked at as a suspect, as you would be in this situation. But at the moment, there's no evidence that anything has even happened to Emma. We just don't know. They just don't know where she is.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's just really, really sad situation.
Yeah, it is. And not only is Emma missing, but there are several other missing women and girls from Gary, which is a city of about 70,000 people, including 13-year-old Janiyah McMichael, who went missing on August 11th within blocks of Emma's known last location. Police say that McMichael may also have been pregnant. She's described as 5'2", weighing about 110 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Police don't believe that her disappearance is connected to Emma's. That's a pretty big coincidence, 2 pregnant women going missing within a few blocks of each other.
It is, but also unfortunately, being pregnant is when women are often most at risk from abusers. I think what's particularly concerning in Janiyah's case is her age, and being pregnant at that age is a concern in itself. There has been a search warrant executed on her mother's home where Janiyah also lived. So don't know, nothing has come of that yet. But I mean, I do think it's most likely coincidental, but it shows the risks that face women and girls at all ages, and often particularly when pregnant.
Yeah, I mean, God, it's just 13 years old and pregnant to start with, let alone then having, dealing with going missing and whatever it is that she's been through, if she's even still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's talk about Emma herself, because her sister Abigail had some really beautiful comments to say about her sister. She said, "My sister is beautiful. She's energetic. She reaches for the sky just like a sunflower, which is her favourite. We love you, Emma, and if you can hear us, there is nothing you have done to make any of us stop loving you. We trust that somebody knows something, and we want her home."
Well, that's so beautiful and so sad. I think the police are most likely still going to look at the boyfriend, Antoine, who may, I mean, his side of things is that he says Emma left his home live. I suppose we'll see what the police can find out regarding him, and also what else could have happened to Emma and Janiyah as well.
Yeah, um, we'll keep an eye out on this one and just see what else crops up and update you all in future episodes.
Thank you, Carly, for recommending that case to us.
Yeah, thank you, Carly. And for now, that's all we've got on Emma's case. So let's move on. Jess, you're going to tell us all about Sara Millerey.
Yeah, that's right. And this case is just so devastatingly sad, really. So on April 4th, 32-year-old Sara Millerey Gonzalez was murdered in Belo, Colombia. Sara was a transgender woman and activist, as she was affectionately known as La Millerey. She chose Millerey as a name because she loved the Milleyas, the glitter that would sparkle around her eyes and in her hair. The motive for Sara's murder is not currently known, and no suspects have been identified or arrested. What is known is that Sara was thrown into a stream, the La Garcia stream, which is kind of down a ravine, after having her arms, hands, and legs broken. There are some reports that state that she was raped. That's been mostly in foreign language media rather than local media, so it's possible that's a mistake, but we don't know. One of her lungs was punctured. Sara was attacked in the Playa Rica neighborhood by unknown assailants. There are some reports that suggest they were a criminal gang. Sara wasn't able to swim because of her injuries, so she was stranded in the river for around 2 hours. And the people who were standing there filmed her dying, essentially. And those videos were soon posted on social media.
My God.
Which is so sad and so horrible. And I have seen a kind of something that one of Sara's friends said in the media, which is that at least people are talking about her case now, because they're not, what the violence done against trans people in Colombia and also kind of around the world is often not spoken about. And I get that, but at the same time, for her final kind of hours to be seen like that is horrifying.
It's just absolutely... I don't have the words for how awful that is.
Yeah. The gang who beat Sara and threw her into the river stood on the banks of the ravine and threatened to hurt anyone who tried to help her. She was eventually rescued. There's kind of varying reports on who rescued her. Some say it was people who turned up while her mother was also there and did get in to rescue her, just kind of passers by. Others say that it was firefighters. Either way, Sara was rescued after about 2 hours. She died from her injuries later in the La Maria hospital. There are some reports that state she had hypothermia and had 2 cardiac arrests.
Oh my God.
I know. One of Sara's family members told the newspaper El Colombiano she was a very cheerful, charismatic person who loved to show off her wigs and her dresses. People loved her so much that they often stopped motorcycles for her, and she would hop on them and show off like a queen. Sara's mother, Sandra, however, told reporters that she'd been very scared for Sara's safety, saying they often attacked her, insulted her. She didn't tell me anything else, so I wouldn't worry, but that terrible, vile thing happened anyway. She's also revealed that in her last diary entry, Sara herself wrote that she was afraid because she'd been threatened and stalked.
Oh, God. I can't imagine. As if being trans isn't hard enough in the first place.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Oh, you know, Jess, but I don't pretend that I can imagine, but my sympathy absolutely goes out to Sara's family and to Sara.
Yeah.
Because that's all I can give, and I hope that those that listen to us know that we're big into trans rights over here on this podcast, and to be perfectly frank, if you're not, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah, pretty much. Trans rights are human rights. And yeah, it is difficult to be trans. It is. But I think in Colombia, there's particular violence we're going to get onto against the LGBT community generally, but also specifically against trans people. And the mention of Sara's diary there, I mean, there's been a kind of another report where they have published some more of Sara's diary, which is not apparently just a diary. Sara kind of saw herself and wanted to be an author, and in this diary she talks about her faith, and also the kind of the life that she had as a trans woman and her transition, and and so I think her mother wants to publish it, and as that's what Sara wanted, I would love to read that, but it's so sad.
Yeah, I'd love to read that too. I think it would be a real insight for those that are cis into what it is like to be trans and what it is like to be trans in a country where there is so much violence against the LGBTQIA plus community and trans people in particular.
Yeah. Sandra, Sara's mother, further stated, I ask for justice for her death. Those who did that have no forgiveness from God. Sara is the 24th LGBTQ plus person to be murdered in Colombia so far in 2025, and the 15th trans person of that 24. Belo is one of the kind of most dangerous areas for trans people in Colombia, and that's within the Antioquia region. And Sara's the third LGBTQ plus person murdered in that region in less than 2 weeks, if we go from March the 26th to April the 4th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And 13 of these 24 murders of LGBTQ people have occurred in Antioquia. And if we look back at kind of the statistics for 2024 aren't out yet, but in 2023, there were 159 LGBTQ plus people murdered in Colombia. 52 of those were trans.
Oh, wow.
It's a real dangerous place, I think. And the thing is, there's so you look at one of the places that people get data about trans murders is the Trans Murder Monitoring Group, and every year on Trans Day of Remembrance, they put out a list of the trans people who've been murdered. And something that has been a trend for a long time is Latin American countries feature really highly. I mean, until a couple of years ago, it had been a long time since we had a name in the UK. Obviously, we then had Brianna Jai. But in Latin America, the numbers are really high. And that's partly through just being a dangerous area, and partly because they have put in steps in countries like Brazil, and to a lesser extent Colombia, to ensure accurate reporting of numbers of LGBT people being murdered. But yeah, Brazil has been at the top for I think 3 years in a row, and Colombia is always near the top as well.
Oh wow, that saying "oh wow" again, I just don't know what to say really. I'm guessing that there's probably a mix in there of people that were targeted because of their LGBTQIA status, and some that were just generally unlucky living in an unsafe area.
Yeah, and often the case for trans people in particular is that they're working as sex workers, and particularly in Latin America, that's because there's not many other jobs available. But obviously sex work is work, but sex work is dangerous, and that's why there's partially a high murder rate. But also, yeah, some of it is pure transphobia. As stated, we don't know the motive for Sara's murder yet. Sara was living in a dangerous place. However, the sheer kind of brutality of what was done to her, to me, suggests more motivation than just someone who is caught in a drug deal gone wrong, for example.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. The level of brutality and threatening people,
Yeah,
so that they don't help her as well.
yeah.
Wow.
Caribe Affirmativo, who are a Colombian LGBTQ plus rights group, stated, "This incident is not isolated. It is part of a wave of systematic violence faced by LGBTIQ people in the country, especially trans people, who continue to be targeted by attacks that not only seek to silence their bodies, but also erase their existence." There has been a 100 million peso reward offered for information that leads to the capture of Sara's killers. And that's about £17,500 or $23,000. Just wanted to say as well, we've posted about this on our Facebook page, and we've posted there with a Spanish translation. I did try to read it in Spanish as well, but I think we've decided against that for the podcast because I don't speak Spanish. But thank you to Lily for translating that. Gracias, Lily. And if you wanted to check it out, it's on our social media pages at a Version of Events.
Yeah, you can also find it on our website at versionofevents.co.uk.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously Sara's story is really sad. Particularly kind of as a trans woman, seeing that happen to a trans sister, and we hope that there'll be justice for her.
Yeah, massively so. Again, another one that we will most definitely be following, and we'll update you on as soon as we know anything. And we just hope that those that did this to her are brought to justice.
Absolutely. Okay, the next case we're going to look at is bring us back to the UK, and that is Matthew Jones.
It is indeed. This one's a bit of a baffling case. You'll soon see why. Matthew Jones is a teacher, and he was obsessed with a woman that he'd had a brief relationship with, Emma Kirk. He stabbed her 15 times, puncturing both of her lungs. And after days of deliberation, he's been found not guilty of attempted murder and possession of a knife.
So just before we get into this, because of the contempt of court laws in the UK, we have to be slightly careful about being too disparaging about a jury verdict. So if you don't think we're being disparaging enough of the jury verdict, that's why. Okay?
Yeah, we like to stay out of contempt of court problems. So Emma and Jones were both teachers in Bath. She told Jones that she did not want to be with him anymore, and he became very angry. Prosecutors say that he lured her to a lane near his home. He then stabbed her repeatedly, including to her neck, head, and face. It took 5 men to drag him away and disarm him, and even while being restrained, he continued to try and attack Emma. The first person to raise the alarm was a mum who was with her young daughter, who tried to intervene and film the attack, but Jones continued. Emma needed emergency surgery and due to her injuries was unable to give officers an account of the attack until 10 days later.
I mean, absolute heroes trying to kind of prevent this. And, the mom with their daughter, I mean, the bravery of that is incredible. But also to the five guys pulling him away, I mean, I think it's very probable that they saved Emma's life.
Oh, absolutely. And as for the young mum with her child, I'm not sure I would have done that. I have to admit, not if I had my child with me. I think I would have intervened by calling the police.
Yeah.
But after I'd gotten away safely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think very, very brave.
Yeah, incredibly brave. So Jones has pleaded guilty to causing grievous bodily harm with intent. He initially claimed in a prepared statement read in his interview that he'd been defending himself from Emma and that she was hurt in that process, but later withdrew those claims. He accepted that he did deliberately stab her, not in self-defense, but to cause her serious harm. Despite this, he has been found not guilty of attempted murder and possession of a knife. The thing about attempted murder in the UK is that it requires an intent to kill. If Emma had died, thank goodness she didn't, but if she had, it would only require the prosecution to prove intent to commit grievous bodily harm. And there's no real factual dispute about what happened. Jones attacked Emma in a rage, stabbing her 15 times, puncturing her lungs, had to be restrained by 5 men. What he denied is intent to kill her. Jones was previously tried for the attempted murder in September last year, but the jury failed to reach a verdict. It's hard to believe that someone could stab someone 15 times and not intend to kill them, but that's the only way that the jury could acquit him.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think the fact that it's 2 juries, and one that couldn't reach a verdict and one that has found him unanimously not guilty, I think there must be part of his defence that's not being reported. That's not to say that I agree with the verdict. I think I agree with you that it's impossible to, well, we said hard to believe. For me, it's impossible to believe that you can stab someone 15 times and not intend to kill them. But the fact that it's 2 juries that have not found him guilty at this point, there must be an element of his defence that's not being reported.
I agree with you because it doesn't make a lot of sense. I agree with you. For me, it's pretty impossible to believe that as well. But I guess for some reason in this country, attempted murder is harder to prove than murder.
Well, yeah, that's how it seems. And I think the fact that it comes down to intent, and that's a difficult thing to prove, I suppose. There is an argument that perhaps the law on attempted murder should be either intent to kill or attacking someone in a manner that a reasonable person would know is likely to cause death. but we are where we are, I guess.
We are indeed. Now, the one that's even stranger for me is being found not guilty on possession of a bladed article. Because Jones did possess a bladed article, a knife. Section 139, 4 and 5 of the Criminal Justice Act identifies some defensive to a charge of possession of a bladed article, and Section 139.4 establishes that it is a defence if the person who's charged can prove that they had a good reason or lawful authority for having the article with him in a public place. Section 139.5 establishes that it is a defence if the person charged can show that the article was possessed because it was for use at work, for religious reasons, or as part of any national costume. Now, clearly, Jones didn't need the knife for work as a teacher, or for religious reasons, or as part of any national costume. A good reason could include a number of things like recent purchase or legitimate transportation. If you've just bought a knife in a shop, you've got to be able to take it home, for instance.
Yeah, and this is something that I think we just can't understand probably until sentencing, because the media haven't reported what his defence for carrying this knife was. And there's no suggestion that Emma brought the knife. Jones did have it. I'm not sure what legal reason there could be. I mean, part of the reason they were meeting was for Emma to give Jones back presents that he had bought her, but there's nothing been reported that he was giving her anything back. So he couldn't have brought the knife to return to her, for example. So yeah, we'll find out, I guess, when he's sentenced.
Yeah, and he's due to be sentenced on May the 9th. So once those sentencing remarks are published, we will be going through them, and this is another one we'll be updating you on.
Yeah.
Now, the maximum sentence for GBH with intent is life imprisonment, with custodial sentences generally ranging between 2 and 16 years. For high culpability Category 1 harm offensive, both of which could apply to this offence due to the use of a knife and the life-threatening injuries caused, would have a starting point of 12 years in custody before being adjusted down for Jones's guilty plea.
Yeah. I think this is definitely high culpability, and definitely Category 1 harm. That's the kind of the top range of each, really. And 12 years starting point. Ooh, the adjustment down for guilty plea is either a third or 25%, depending on what the offence is. So I guess we'll see. But I remain surprised by the jury's verdict, and just we've attempted to explain how that verdict has probably been reached, but I think we can both say we're very surprised by the verdict.
Yeah, we are. I think we'll learn more in the sentencing, but it seems like a very strange.
Absolutely, yeah.
It feels very strange to me, at least. But we weren't there. We weren't listening to the arguments.
Yeah.
So that's what I try to keep telling myself anyway.
And the fact that it's two juries again, clearly there was a defence put forward that has convinced one jury, and I mean, clearly it convinced some people on the first jury as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's get kicking on the final case for today, Jonathan Brooks. Jess, do you want to get into that one?
Yeah, Jonathan Brooks. He's been found guilty of the attempted murder of his colleague Graham Perks on January 14th, 2001. They were both plastic surgeons working for Nottingham University Hospital's NHS Trust. Brooks broke into Perks's home in the early hours of the morning, armed with a crowbar, 20 litres of petrol, matches, and a knife. So he'd been convicted of 2 counts of attempted murder, 1 of attempted arson with intent to endanger life, and 1 count of possession of a bladed article. So, looking into this, I went down a couple of rabbit holes and kind of found out where the more details about why Brooks had a grudge against Perks. And so it goes back to 2011, when Brooks accused Perks of deliberately adopting a work schedule that allowed him to work 12 days on and 8 days off to maximize his private sector income. I know that's an accusation, and it was an accusation that got quite a lot of positive public press. I mean, I find it bizarre that they haven't taken this down, but there's still a Daily Mail article praising Brooks as a whistleblower. But what in fact happened was that Brooks himself was accused of bullying a colleague, a more junior colleague, and he was suspended as various colleagues said that they were unable to work with him. So at that point, Brooks took his employer to an employment tribunal, and he alleged that he was subject to mistreatment for whistleblowing. The tribunal rejected his claim, found that he had behaved unreasonably, and made nonsensical accusations. And so not only did they reject his claim, but they also ordered him to pay £170,000 in costs, and that order was upheld on appeal. And he actually still owes the NHS that money, although I think now he's in prison, probably good luck getting that out of him, really.
Yeah.
So by January 14th, 2021, Brooks was facing dismissal, and he was 3 days into a disciplinary hearing in which Perks had been a witness against him. And I think presumably Brooks realised the hearing wasn't going well, as he decided to act on what the court heard was his hatred for Perks by stabbing him repeatedly and trying to set his home on fire.
This is just absolutely insane. This is like something out of a movie.
It is wild. Like, the two plastic surgeons on insane money hate each other so much. Or, well, it seems like the hatred was more one way. But he hates him so much, he's going to try and kill him. It's crazy. It gets crazier, actually. So Graham Perks was awakened by a loud bang downstairs, and he went to investigate, and he saw this dark figure that he believed to be his son Henry, and he thought Henry might be going through some sort of mental disturbance, some kind of breakdown, and he approached what he believed to be Henry, but of course it was Jonathan Brooks. And Brooks then stabbed Perks repeatedly, severely injured him. Graham told the court that he could feel something sticking out of his stomach, and he realised that it was his intestines.
Oh, God.
Which is horrifying. And the court actually heard that Perks was given only a 5% chance of survival, and he spent 8 days in intensive care and then a further 3 weeks in hospital. So these are really, really, really serious injuries.
Yeah.
And also, as mentioned, like, Graham Perks knew that his son was home. His wife was also at home. So when Jonathan Brooks is setting that fire, he's putting 3 people, at least 3 people's lives at risk. I think it was only the 3 at home. I'm not 100% sure, but at least 3 people's lives being put at risk.
Yeah, and at least 3, like you say, because if the fire had caught on to other houses,
well, yeah,
absolutely insane.
Yeah. Brooks was very quickly arrested, and police linked him to the scene through a blood deposit in the conservatory, on a crowbar that he had used to force entry, and on the knife used in the attack. CCTV footage was used to track Brooks cycling to Perks' home, and inside his garage, his blood, a container of petrol, matches, and a lighter were also found. Despite this overwhelming evidence, Brooks insisted he was not guilty. But rather than proceeding to trial, he repeatedly used stalling tactics to delay everything. This included sacking his lawyers, going on hunger strike and refusing to attend court, all sorts of things. His trial was listed and forced to be abandoned on 9 occasions. But when the case finally came to trial in March, Brooks sacked his legal team for the 5th time the day before trial. But rather than delay the case again, the judge ordered it to go ahead. Brooks had the opportunity of representing himself, but refused to attend court, which meant that he wasn't represented at all.
Fucking idiot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he said that he would rather die than be in prison. Well, I'm not sure what he thought would be the outcome of this. But I have to say, fair play to the jury, because they still deliberated for over 12 hours, despite the fact that they've just had this case put to them with no cross-examination of witnesses, no defence case put forward, and they've still gone back into the jury room and taken it seriously and discussed it.
Yeah, they'd really tried to think out all the different reasons for this, and like we said in the case before, attempted murder is harder to prove in a lot of cases.
Yeah. So his sentencing scheduled for June 3rd, and the maximum sentence for attempted murder is life imprisonment. Based on sentencing guidelines, Brooks committed a high or very high culpability offence in the most severe category of harm, category 1. The custodial sentencing range for that is 25 to 40 years. And this is a man who's in his early 60s, so he's looking at, I think, clearly a very long sentence, which is good, because he's clearly not a safe person to be out. If he's that angry about a colleague testifying against him at a disciplinary hearing, I mean, this is wild. But you can actually read the judgment in his tribunal online. I read it, and let's just say it paints a very different picture to some of what was in the media at the time that was kind of pro Jonathan Brooks. And that's obviously pro him before he tried to murder one of his colleagues.
Yeah, I baffled by that case. Generally, I hope he gets punished for messing around the system so much in the lead up to his trial. I'm not sure how ethical that is, but I kind of hope he does, because that's...
I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's been over 4 years since his arrest, and he's delayed it over and over again. And so I think...
And he's tried to do it again.
I mean, yeah, he's tried to do it again. I think the sentence that he gets is very clearly going to be a lengthy one. It will be the equivalent. He will die in prison.
One way or another, either he'll starve himself to death or...
Well, yeah, he's been going on hunger strike repeatedly, so I think it's clear that he'll probably continue with the hunger strikes, but at his age, that kind of sentence is
definitely. So we've got an update for you guys in the Nicholas Prosper case. It's just come out today, which happened to be the day that we're recording. So we thought we would dive in and update you. And it's an interesting one, because usually after a trial there will be an appeal, but usually that appeal is against the conviction itself. In this case, the Court of Appeal has been asked to review the sentencing, who killed 3 members of his family, Nicholas Prosper, to ask for a whole life tariff, which, if you recall, we said it was weird that the prosecution didn't go for that in the first place.
Yeah, that's right. And so yeah, usually if there is going to be an appeal, it will be by the defendant against the verdict. Obviously, Prosper isn't going to appeal the verdict. He pleaded guilty. Um, and frankly, even though he got given a 49-year minimum term, Prosper will be unlikely to appeal his sentence on the grounds of its severity, because even though it's a 49-year tariff, which is very long, he killed 3 people, including 2 children, and he planned to kill many more. So yeah, we're trying to get our heads on what's happened. So a few weeks ago, there was an application made under the sentence leniency kind of rules, to say that it was too short, and that's now been taken up by the Attorney General. So it's going to go forward to the Court of Appeal. And there's a quote from the Shadow Justice Minister when this was initially submitted. He said, "What exactly does someone have to do in this country to be sent away for life? This was the most serious of crimes, including the murder of 2 children. What is the point of making provision for WLOs, whole life orders, if they aren't used in cases like this?"
So we did find it interesting at the time that the prosecution didn't go for a whole life sentence, because I have to agree with the Shadow Justice Minister. What exactly does somebody have to do? And I think that the mitigating factor in this case for the judge was his age, that he was a teenager still, but he was still over 18 when this happened, which makes him a legal adult, and therefore I don't think you can make mitigation for age at that point.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean the law was changed in 2022 to say that offenders between 18 and 20 can receive a whole life order, whereas before it only applied to those 21 and over. So yeah, I think it's strange to consider age as a huge mitigating factor, especially just in terms of the gravity of what Prosper did. Kind of just he planned to commit mass murder of children, and it's only frankly by luck that his mother woke up and caught him preparing his killing spree, that he was caught before he reached school where he planned to carry out this mass murder. There have been multiple referrals to the Attorney General, so I don't think this is a big surprise. But yeah, like you say, Ellie, what surprised both of us was that this was a joint submission that, from the prosecution and the defence, that a high minimum term would be enough.
Yeah, I think the overwhelming feeling, not just of those in a position to actually do something about it, like the going through the appeal, etc., is in among the public as well. I think the public in general, we weren't the only ones to be shocked. I think everyone was shocked because we are at a place with our justice system is getting used to the concept of a whole life order.
Yeah.
I think it's not something that we did before. We sort of went from the death penalty to more lenient life sentencing.
Yeah.
Unless you were Fred and Rose West or the Moors murders, Ian Brady and Myra Hindley, that level of extreme criminality. But I think this is that level of extreme criminality.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't see how it doesn't meet the requirements for a whole life order, and frankly, I would be surprised if it isn't increased. I think it will be increased.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that it will be. And what's as well, like, it's not like the prosecution haven't waived the right to do this, and because it's not coming from the Crown Prosecution Service, it's coming from the Attorney General. So it'll be interesting to see what the ruling is. The only other thing that I'd want to touch on is again in some of the coverage today, there's been a repetition of this idea that Nicholas Prosper has autism, and even before you get on to the issue of whether or not that's mitigation, and we've been very clear we don't think it is, Nicholas Prosper does not have an autism diagnosis. The experts who looked at him said that he has some autistic traits, but not to a high level. And it's unfortunate that the media keep repeating this, because I think it's bad enough that that's put forward as mitigation. It makes it worse when it's just accepted as a fact that he does have it. He doesn't.
Yeah, it is. It is worse. As an autistic person, we do not claim him.
Exactly.
And it's not okay that they're reporting something that just in fact isn't true. But that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah, so that is our update for you guys on the Nicholas Prosper case, and we will update you again when the time comes, when we know what the ruling is in this situation.
Yeah.
Right,
so I guess that's where we are for today. We should thank Carly again for recommending the Emma Baum case. And just to say as well, we're always really happy to cover kind of case recommendations. We want to talk about what you guys are interested in. So you can get in touch with us on social media. We're at Version of Events on Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, all the other good stuff. We've got our website, versionofevents.co.uk, or you can drop us an email, versionofevents@gmail.com.
Yeah, and other than that, we would be eternally in your debt if you wouldn't mind leaving us a cheeky 5-star review. And
absolutely,
don't forget to put the bell icon on if you are on Spotify to alert you every time we drop an episode.
Yeah, please do subscribe, guys, and give us those 5-star reviews and give us a share. But yeah, thank you very much for tuning in with us today.
We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.